Hey guys, welcome back. Those of you who are using this to review, good on you. Keep it up. I know it can be hard to work from home sometimes. It takes a lot of self-discipline, and honestly, on the brighter side of things, this is a really good practice for as you guys continue in your educational career. As you keep going on, there are there are many ways that you will have to do things like this. You'll have to self-pace and do online learning, in any level of education. So for example, right now, you guys are high school students and we're asking you to do this. My fiance, who, he took the trades career path, he's currently doing his online learning. He's getting caught up during these times. I've had to do online classes. My mother, who has a professional designation, which means she's in finance and she's working that way, she's expected to keep up with online learning as well, and there's so many credit hours she has to do every year. So I guess all I really just want to say with that is that this is really good practice. I'm really proud of you guys for keeping up with this, for tuning in to watch these videos. Those of you who are, and this is just a wonderful way to get some practice of a different type of learning, right? Because as I am your teacher or your coach, and I will help you through these kind of periods, a lot of it is up to you to learn those skills that you need in order to self-pace and keep up with this at home. So, good on you guys. You guys are doing really great, and I'm really proud of you guys. So, really keep that up. Okay, now that I've done my little intro ramble, let's get into chapter 3. So chapter 3 is a nice short chapter, which is kind of a nice break from the longer videos we've been doing, but it's equally as important as some of the other ones. So let's kind of get into it. We're into chapter 3. So Dr. Jekyll was quite at ease. So first question, why do you think Dr. Jekyll is at ease? What does it mean to be at ease of something? To be at ease means that you are not currently worrying. Okay? It usually has to kind of do with the level of confidence. So, for example, I'm at ease with what I'm going to cook for dinner tonight because I know that I'm going to have a curried squash soup. I'm not really worried about it. I have all of my ingredients, so I'm quite at ease with what I'm going to eat tonight. That's one way I could be at ease about something. So what do you think that, that Mr. Jekyll is at ease about that some people might not be at ease about? I'm hoping at this point you said something along the lines of Mr. Hyde. So he is going to be kind of more at ease about Mr. Hyde, but why do you think he's going to be easy about it? Why do you think he's not going to worry about it? Because if we think about it, there have been some strange things going on around town, right? Some things are going to be happening. We know that this little girl was calmly trampled on. What a beautifully disgusting term, I guess, to try to describe this violence that this young girl would have had to go through. Using that literary technique, what was it called? When he calmly tramples? Oh, hold on. When he calmly tramples, I'm hoping that you said juxtaposition, right? We have that opposite. We have this idea of something happening, it's happening quite calmly, and we're having a very much fly in the face of something that tramples, something very violent. So we have these two, they're very different. We're putting them next to each other to really note the differences or the contrast. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. So Dr. Jekyll is quite at ease at this point. What would make him confident? What does he have over this character of Mr. Hyde? What does he know about this character of Mr. Hyde that we don't know, that would make him confident, or that other characters also don't know about Mr. Hyde? Because right now they're kind of worried about him. And what does this tell us about Jekyll as a character, right? We're talking again about that idea of how his thoughts, right, in the STEEL acronym that we have, right, how his thoughts are showing, right? If he's at ease, he's not worrying. That means he doesn't have any worrying thoughts, okay? Maybe about how, this affects other people, right? It can be kind of disconcerting or strange or unsettling if somebody is at ease in a situation that maybe shouldn't have ease, right? There's this guy running around town. He's beating up these little girls. It's unsettling to other characters that Dr. Jekyll doesn't really seem to care, right? And who is he unsettling the most? Who is he really kind of worrying the most with his sense of ease? Who's our narrator? This one would be Utterson, right? So he is making Utterson feel unsettled and just really worried, even more so worried, maybe a little bit panicky about how he is reacting towards Mr. Hyde. Okay, think about what this tells us about what kind of person Dr. Jekyll is. Okay, what kind of person is he that he lets his friends feel a little unsettled? He makes them unsettled, and at the same time, his thoughts are that he might have something on this Hyde character that makes him feel a little bit easy. It's a little bit strange, but we're going to find out a little bit more. One other thing I want you guys to think about is, I'm going to do some pink. How have we seen friendship so far in this novel? We talked about this idea of if a friend is in trouble, we would automatically go to help them, or maybe we would be a little bit more cautious about helping them. So what have we seen about this idea of what does it mean to be a friend? What do you think Stevenson is trying to tell us about what it means to be a good friend? Does it mean that we're, stalking a door at 2 a.m. so that we can find this person who might, be hurting our friend? Does it mean that we're thinking about our friend to the point where we can't work, right? Because Utterson stops working and he just hides out by Mr. Hyde's door. Is that healthy? Is that a good friendship? Do we need that sometimes? Or do we need a friend who's going to, stand outside of somebody's door all night long to try to get to the answers? What is Stevenson really trying to say about what it means to be a good friend, or how far we'll go for a friend? Now, I'm not going to give you an answer. This is all individual. I want you to kind of reflect on what you think about the ideas of friendship. But think about specific places of where you've seen somebody try to be a good friend in the novel, or in the novella, sorry. Now, if your sheet that your subject or theme tracker that you're looking at is the idea of friendship, I want you to try to note down some of these ideas or some of these places of when we've seen it. If you are out of paper for the note or the theme tracker or the subject tracker, grab a piece of paper and just kind of note it down. This will help you when we get through to our final project, where I'm going to ask you guys to look at where we've seen this subject throughout the entire novella. So kind of noting it as we go along is very helpful. Also, when you see quotes, I want you to, really make note and copy those quotes down. Maybe pause the video and write down a good quote that shows the idea of friendship. With all that being said, and that also includes for all the other 4, right? Deceit, good and evil, and repression as well. When you see an example or a time, I want you to just simply make a jot note of it. Make a reference to when it was. Okay, without further ado, let's get into chapter 3. So, Dr. Jekyll was quite at ease. A fortnight, and just really quickly, a fortnight right here means, not a video game, 14 days. A fortnight later, by excellent good fortune, the doctor gave one of his pleasant dinners to some 5 or 6 old cronies, and all intelligent, reputable men, and all judges of good wine. And Mr. Utterson so contrived that he remained behind after the others had departed. Mr. Utterson had kind of made it in his mind that he's going to stay behind, because Dr. Jekyll right now is inviting some friends over for a dinner party, right? That was their idea of fun back then, and I mean, we still do it today. Mr. Utterson was so contrived that he remained behind after the others had departed. This was no new arrangement, but a thing that had befallen many scores of times. This has happened many times before. Mr. Utterson is usually somebody who stays behind. Where Utterson was well liked, he was liked well. He had some really good friends. Hosts loved to detain the dry lawyer when the light-hearted and the loose-tongued had already their foot on the threshold. Okay, so all those who had already spoken a lot and had said their piece, left, but Mr. Utterson sort of stays behind. They liked to sit a while in his unobtrusive company, practicing for solitude, sobering their minds in the man's rich silence after the expense and strain of gaiety. To this rule Dr. Jekyll was no exception, and as he now sat on the opposite side of the fire, a large, well-made, smooth-faced man of 50, with something of a stylish cast perhaps, but every mark of capacity and kindness. You could see by his looks that he cherished Mr. Utterson a sincere and warm affection. Okay, so we get a description of what Dr. Jekyll looks like right here. So he is a large, well-made, smooth-faced man. Okay, so he's a big guy. I mean, not big, but he's a big guy. Smooth-faced, right? He's well-shaven. So that means that he, has some money to look after his appearance. He's 50 years old, but with something of a stylish cast, right? So he has money to have some really nice clothes, perhaps. But every mark of capacity and kindness. He's a very capable and kind gentleman. Okay, very much the picture of kind of our Victorian gentleman. Sorry, if you hear any banging going around, our landlord's fixing up another apartment in a building, so it can be a little loud. Please just excuse it. Okay, so he meets with Jekyll, and that's kind of our description of what Victorian gentleman that Dr. Jekyll is. So let's continue on. I have been wanting to speak to you, Jekyll, began the latter. You know that will of yours, again, that last will and testament. A close observer might have gathered that the topic was distasteful, but the doctor carried it off gaily. My poor Utterson, he said, you are unfortunate in such a client. You are so unfortunate to have me as your friend and your client. I'm so sorry I have to put you through this. I never saw a man so distressed as you were by my will, unless it were that hide-bound pedant Lanyon and what he called my scientific heresies. So he's calling Lanyon this pedant, right? And right here, a pedant is someone who is obsessed with small details, right? To pedantically do something. We've seen this word before, obsessed with details. You're obsessed with how everything should look and be and feel and what it all kind of is like. Okay. Let's continue on. Lanyon, what do you call my scientific heresies? Oh, I know he's a good fellow. You needn't frown. An excellent fellow, and I always mean to see more of him. But a hide-bound pedant for all that. An ignorant, blatant pedant. And I was never more disappointed in any man than Lanyon. Okay, so we have kind of this disappointment that's going on for these two are obviously in some sort of fight over some sort of right, this idea of small details. So Dr. Jekyll doesn't even think it's a big deal, but obviously Lanyon does. They're in a fight. So think about like why Jekyll would be calling Lanyon a pedant. You know I never approved of it, pursued Utterson, ruthlessly, disregarding the fresh topic. My will? Yes, certainly I know that, said the doctor a trifle sharply. You have told me so. Well, I tell you again, continued the lawyer, I have been learning something of young Hyde. Okay, so he's bringing up Hyde now from the will. The large, handsome face of Dr. Jekyll grew pale to the very lips, and there came a blackness about his eyes. I do not care to hear more, said he. This is a matter I thought we had agreed to drop. Okay, we have this very kind of emotional response. Dr. Jekyll grew pale of the lips, and there came a blackness about his eyes. Why do you think that Jekyll is reacting so strongly to Mr. Hyde at this point, right? Think about it. If someone were to bring up someone else, right? If we have Sally and she's chatting to Jane, and Jane is like, well, I've been hearing a little bit about Mike, right? It would be very weird if Sally all of a sudden grew very pale at the mention of him. If you're growing pale at the mention of something, what does that mean? What does it mean if you go very pale? Okay, think about why Jekyll is really worrying about this. Right? He's having such a strong reaction. But his friend is continuing on. His friend is saying, you know what, I know you're going to have a bad reaction to this. You typically do, right? I thought we had agreed to drop. This means that they've talked before about it, but obviously Utterson is not satisfied, and Utterson wants answers, and he's very upset, right? Okay, let's continue on. What I heard was abominable, right? Causing moral revulsion, not just the abominable snowman. Moral revulsion. You are shaken to your core because you think the actions are wrong. Like, for example, killing someone, right? We'd probably be an abominable act. We'd have moral revulsion to it. We'd be upset and repulsed by it. What I heard was abominable, said Utterson. It can make no change. You do not understand my position, returned the doctor with a certain incoherency of manner. I am painfully situated, Utterson. My position is a very strange one. It is one of those affairs that cannot be mended by talking. So, as much as you want to help me, my old friend, talking about it is not going to help. Jekyll, said Utterson, you know me. I am a man to be trusted. Make a clean breast of this in confidence, and I make no doubt I can get you out of it. So tell me what's going on, right? I am a lawyer. It can be in confidence, and I'll help you get out of it. Sorry, that's still my landlord, if you hear that knocking. My good Utterson, said the doctor, this is very good of you. This is downright good of you, and I cannot find words to thank you, and I believe you fully. I would trust you before any man alive. I before myself, if I could make the choice. But indeed, it isn't what you fancy. It isn't as bad as that, right? I would trust you more than I would trust myself, is what he's saying. So, if I were to go, for example, for the Lent season, I'm giving up, cookies and chocolates and stuff like that. So, I would rather trust my fiance to go into the cookie aisle rather than me, because I know if I go in, I'm probably going to get some cookies, right? He's saying the same kind of thing. I trust you, Utterson, to do something that is right more than I trust myself, right? He's kind of in first place with Jekyll kind of being in second. So that says a lot about that trust and that friendship that these two have, that Jekyll trusts his friend more than he trusts himself. And just to put your good heart at rest, I will tell you one thing. The moment I choose, I can be rid of Mr. Hyde. I give you my hand upon that, and I thank you again and again. Okay, so we have kind of our little answer up here from the questions we had at the beginning of the chapter. Why is Mr. Jekyll or Dr. Jekyll at ease? What about this quote right here? What can he do at any moment? I can be rid of Mr. Hyde. I give you my hand upon that. Right? Why does he think that he can be rid of Mr. Hyde whenever he wants? Do you think he can? Do you hear that from people even in today's society? Oh, I can stop whenever I want to. I could stop eating cookies whenever I wanted to. I could stop vaping whenever I wanted to. Oh, I could stop talking to so-and-so whenever I wanted to. What is that telling us a little bit about Dr. Jekyll's character? Do people who typically say that have control over their actions? I'm going to leave this up to you to decide where's that fine line about how much control we have. And when we're hearing this, does your mind perk up a little bit and you're paying a little bit more attention to Dr. Jekyll and kind of his maybe even false sense of ease so early on in the novel or the novella? Okay, let's continue on. If you'd like to kind of go for that practicing, especially for literary answers, pause the video right here and kind of think about these. Do you believe Jekyll? Do you think that Jekyll can be rid of Hyde whenever he wants? Why or why not? Use evidence or a quote from the text to support your answer. For example, in chapter 1 or 2, Mr. or Doctor said, and this suggests that. Okay, I'm helping you out with a couple of sentence stems. These are ones that will show a nice strong answer or a strongly written answer, right, that you thought through it well. And they also help you to kind of avoid some of those written pitfalls that we'll go over a little bit more later in the year, like not using your personal pronoun I I think that, right, this will help you kind of create a nice strong answer. And as you go forward in English, this is what your answers are going to look like. So have some fun, sort of play around with these sentence stems. If you find it really hard and you need to resort back to the personal pronoun I think, that's okay. But I'm going to ask you to at least give them a try. So pause the video, and I want you to give those questions a try. Ready? All right, let's keep going. And I will just add one little word, Utterson, that I'm sure you'll take in good part. This is a private matter, and I beg of you to let it sleep. Utterson reflected a little, looking into the fire. I have no doubt you are perfectly right, he said, at last getting to his feet. Well, but since we have touched upon this business, and for the last time, I hope, continued the doctor, there's one point I should like you to understand. I have a really great interest in poor Hyde. I know you have seen him. He told me so, and I fear he was rude. But I do sincerely take a very great interest in that young man. And if I am taken away, Utterson, I am taken away. If I am taken away, Utterson, I wish you to promise me that you will bear with him and get his rights for him. You will fulfill that will for him. I think you would if you knew all, and it would be a weight off my mind if you would promise. I can't pretend that I shall ever like him, said the lawyer. I don't ask that, pleaded Jekyll, laying his hand upon the other's arm. I only ask for justice. I only ask for you to help him for my sake when I am no longer here. Utterson heaved an impressionable sigh. Well, said he, I promise. So think about this right now. If he's saying, like, if I am taken away, right? Not if I die, if I am taken away by anything. And that, again, brings up this idea of disappearance. Right? If he disappears for any reason, he wants Utterson to do what for him? What is the promise that he's asking? He wants him to fulfill the will, right? And he's saying, if I'm taken away, I want you to fulfill this will for me. So in that kind of instance, does Dr. Jekyll, or does Jekyll have power over Hyde? Right? Because if you had power over Hyde, and if you thought, well, you know what, I can be rid of him any day, would you be worried of Hyde not getting your possessions when you are taken away? I feel like you wouldn't be too worried about it, right? Because you would have power over it. Just a very strange thing that's going on. Okay, that is the end of chapter 3. As always, if there's anything you'd like to see, throw them in the comment section below. Or you can email me for my students, or you can write me onto Teams for my students. Either of those are options. And, you know, keep listening to this. Keep trying to get through Dr. Jekyll. I will be continuing on with these chapters. I'll probably take a bit of a break while my landlord does the rest of the repairs for today. But tomorrow, hopefully, we can get her to chapter 2, and we'll get through this novella together, and you guys will see the fun ending with this one. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a good day. Remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you when we get back to class. Bye.